You're listening to Smooth Jazz Radio. I'm your host, One Lion. Just kidding. Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion. This is your one-stop shop for smooth jazz. Wait, no. Blazor development, where we like to write code. We're going to jump right into it because there's so much going on today. I may have to end the stream just a little bit early. We have another interview coming up for the position that is currently open in our office, in our team. So again, just an advert. If any of you are interested in trying out for this position, just send me a private message. Running upstairs and then downstairs right before the stream. Then let me know. Send me a private message on Discord or an email. I'm sure you can find my email somewhere. And we can communicate. I'll get some information from you. I'll most likely need your resume to give to our recruiter and our project manager. And then they'll set up interviews. It'll be fast interviews. It'll be set up as quickly as possible. Okay, so my desktop is a clean desktop. I'm closing that project. I said I'm closing the project, dang it, not waiting for it to close. Oh my gosh. I am moving this over here. We are opening up the financial management tracker. It's my song. And now we're loading the project. Just going to take another 15 minutes. While we're waiting for that, I need to verify that the screen that we are about to display is the right display. That audio is coming through nice and clear. It is. Awesome. And then we'll get started. Right. And then I'll also hop over to Discord, which I've had closed all day, apparently, and do a stream announcement. One day I will help out. So like Broken Sword created the Discord bot for us so politely, so kindly. And it has a small thing where it will often not do half of the stream announcement, which is the one where you go live. It only tells you when the streamer ends their stream. So I've been manually, or actually, we had a couple people that were doing it for me, but now I'm doing it myself. Hello, Nightlight. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday, that your weekend was great. Like Tony the Tigger. He's the only one. Wait, that's not right. That's not how that works. Right, you are synced. I am going to close you. Make sure that my stream doesn't break because of that. Drag this over her. Let's go indeed. Hello, Tyron. I need to turn my headphones up so that if anyone decides to play the super loud music, I can get scared and entertain you. There we go. Whoa, I forgot that my XSplit camera is set up for interview mode. As I mentioned, I will be doing another interview after the stream today. We have another candidate that would like to try out for the position on our team. What am I looking for? XSplit. XSplit. I was like, why does my welcome screen look like my closing screen? Boop. There we go. That's my welcome screen. That's better. Thank you. Okay, so we are really close to being done with the core functionality of the financial management tracker. Last bit to do is this edit lookup items, and then make sure to refresh the lookup lists so that the new items show up in the list. Nope. I say this every time, and then I go and look, and it's not implemented. But I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that the service logic for performing the update and add for edit lists is implemented, and all we have to do is, or for lookup lists, and all we have to do is set up the UI. However, client side is implemented, but server side is implemented. Excuse me, are you actually implemented? Update. Create. Yeah, I think they're implemented. All right then. So let's see what we have done with the UI so far. And I will also bring up the Figma where we designed the UI. I got a little bit better at Figma. I learned about some things. So for example, these things here, except it's locked. I'm gonna lock you and you so I don't break other stuff. Which one of these is it? You there. Info cards. Okay, so I am going to call this thing a component. And I'm going to duplicate it and move it back and grab the actual component. So this one is the component, right? This one is the component. So now you can see I have an instance of this component here, and then the actual component here. And this would usually go on a different page, but I think you're on in free version, you're only allowed to have 3 total pages. So I'll just leave it on this screen. But here is my card. Because I have currently, actually, no, I have 3. I have 3 different styles for that card. Check it this out. I'm going to find one of them, such as in this one. I'm going to move you all the way up here. Dude. Actually, I don't even think I need to unlock it when I'm doing it this. Oh, I do, because I need to get the created component off of it. Card. So I'm going to turn this one into a component. Have you tried Avalonia UI? I have not, but I might be willing to look into UI frameworks more. Now that I am getting more into actually doing design work myself, and almost, but not quite, almost enjoying it. I still won't say that I fully enjoy it. I still prefer writing logic and the actual application itself rather than the UI designing and such and so on. Where is this one? There we go. Create component, which there are keyboard shortcuts. Control Alt K is not a great shortcut for me because I like keeping my left hand on the keyboard, and keyboard shortcuts that I like can all be done with the left hand, with exceptions like chords in Visual Studio when both of my hands are generally on the keyboard at all times. But when I'm working in something like this that has a lot of drag and drop-ness, then I prefer keeping one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse. Okay. Hello, Marcus. Thank you so much for sharing that your GitHub repo that had the language thingy, the continuous voice. I got to look at it a little bit closer, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so here's what we can do with this. I have 3 different components that look the same, they're just styled differently. So I can use this naming convention. Is that what I called it? Yeah. Dark, flat, light, neumorphic. No. Apparently I lost focus on this. Neumorphic. And this one is light flat. Okay, so I've named them with this slash naming convention. And because they're all components and they have the same name pattern, I can combine them as separate variants. I could have just created one component and then added variants to it. But since I already had these created down here, then I went ahead and turned them into 3 specific components and then named them this way so that they can have variants. So what those slashes did is they gave me property values that we can name. And now we have mode dark, mode light. We have appearance. That could be flat or neumorphic. And this should be a drop down. I'm expecting this to be a drop down. Why isn't it a drop down? Oh, because I'm not looking at a specific card. Okay, so I had the entire component variants. Component set, component collection. I can't remember what it's called. And hello, Zush. Marcus said, I prefer doing user interface. You get immediate feedback. You do, and it is the most visible, and it's the one that gets recognized the most. But for me, I really, really enjoy doing the behind the scenes stuff where it's just you do magic in the background and the user, the client, the whoever isn't really aware of what happened. They just know that the app works and they don't really get called out as much. The thing that I don't like though is when I'm told that I'm not doing anything. That's when it becomes an issue. Okay, anyway, we have 3 different variants of the same card. So if I come down here to this card that was an instance of that first component, we now have these properties, and I can change the look and feel of the card just by changing those properties. I thought that was really cool. And so if I wanted to do stuff like create standard buttons across the entire app, I would create a component for buttons. And the cool thing is that you can nest components, and because it's a component, and most of you are probably already familiar with this concept, then you make modifications to the component and it updates all of the instances that are using that component. And so what that means is now on this card in a specific, I could duplicate, move you here. Oops. I wanted to end card. Sumimasen. So because this is an instance, I can change the text in it without affecting the other textuses. And so now this, this is also the same component as this first one, which means if I make changes to the here, then it affects that one too. Oh, I love it. And that's what kind of got me excited about that. Not it's what kind of got me excited. That's what I'm holding on to motivate myself to actually enjoy doing some of the UI design, because now I'm essentially doing Blazor still. I'm creating components for a UI in the same way that I would create the component for Blazor. So here is my component, kind of like less code reuse, but in graphics, absolutely. So I'm creating my component, I'm creating CSS variants on it. So they're all using the same exact structure, just styled differently. And that translates directly to a Blazor component in the app that we're writing. So I can think that way. What I couldn't think of is when I'm first looking at a blank page, how do I set up a page? But if I think about it in terms of how I would do it if we were doing it in Blazor and I would create components for the different parts of the page, that makes even more sense to me. Yeah. So anyway, I will update those on my own time so that they're all using the components. This one is using the same component except with the other properties set. I just thought that it was fun enough to share. See if anyone actually changes their mind about whether they like UI or not. Maybe I made you stop liking UI by doing this. But hopefully I encouraged those of you that use component-based programming UI like Angular or React or Blazor, that you can see the parallels between creating a Figma design and doing all of your design in Figma first, or some kind of UI sketch thing versus jumping straight into code and trying to design it. So that said, here is our edit page. Yeah, good times. Oh, right. I guess the one thing that is hard about using these components is even though I'm reusing this component, it's not like I can add extra content inside unless I do something like let's say I wanted to add an icon over here on the right of these. Oh, and there's other things that I wanted to say about it too. But I wanted to add an icon. So let's just go find an SVG that I can copy. Iconify. Search. That's what I'm doing. Fire hydrant. That's not how you search Iconify. Where do you browse icons? Fire. Or just fire. Excuse me, do you have fire? You do have fire. So let's grab a fire. Copy the SVG pasta. Okay, so I want this icon to be white so we can actually see it. Actually, red. Make it red. Okay, so we have this icon here. Notice that it is not actually inside of the track card. So if I were to move the track card, the icon stays. And I cannot move the icon into the track card because the track card is an instance of a component. So what I need to do then is move the track card inside of either a group or a frame with the icon. No idea why it disappeared just then though. Is there a reason you oh, I know why. The frame. Whoops. The frame was too small for it, essentially. So let's tell this thing to stay top left. Okay, so it's the vector that is trying to stretch. Right. Top. Okay. And then we can have this thing stop trying to stretch. Didn't I just... Oh. Right. 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 Oh, it takes some effort though. When you're still learning it, it takes some effort. So hold right. Actually, no. Don't hold either. I don't want it to do either. We're gonna have to move it no matter what. Whatever. Bottom. Falling on my face here. There. Okay. Where is you? What I really should have done is turn the track card into or put a frame around the track card and then move the SVG icon into the frame so that it takes that size. But anyway, you can see that it works-ish. So we are now going to take you to top and left so that we can make it taller, so that we can see the entire glow, and whiter. There. It took some effort, but point is that it isn't super easy or straightforward to know how to add content to a component, in my opinion. Is that in your opinion? So anyway. Oh yeah, right. I forgot. I'm kind of interested to know what would happen if I copied and paste to replace. Okay, it replaces it with plan. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to update this, I guess. So we'll leave it as that. Just change you to watch card. Grab the text from there, which I'm too lazy to unlock it. So I'm just going to override it myself. Watch. Watch your money grow or shrink. You're supposed to wrap or shrink if you don't manage it well, which you should since you're using this app. What happened? Thank you so much for the follow, Tech with Oki. 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 Thank you so much for that. I need to unlock that card anyway if I was going to do this. But so the next thing that I would do is just take these info cards here and find the info cards everywhere else and do right click, paste or replace, and change the styling so that each of these are neuromorphic for this one. I could have done all of them at the same time. And I'll take you for 12, Alex. And Good VJ is here. Hello, Good VJ. My client wants me to make his app look like Bootstrap 3. Aren't we on like Bootstrap 5 now? Is there a reason for that? That's weird. Oh, no, it's not. I know why that happened. I was like, why did it paste outside of the page? Well, because it's locked. Because it's locked. And now why are you a frame inside of a frame? You're a section inside of a frame. Whatever. Whatever. I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. So I want to copy you. And this time, before I pasta you, I am going to unlock the mysteries of the world. Unlock the page before I try to paste or replace. Every Bootstrap version elements look quite similar. Yes, I guess. They have made changes. I'm pretty sure that they've made changes between Bootstrap 3 and Bootstrap 5. So similar, yes. Same, most likely not. But I can't say that with great confidence. And there we go. I've replaced all of my usages there. Now let's say that I want to put these somewhere else, but I need a quick way to get to them. Like I actually created another page, but I want to use these cards as my template cards for everything anyway. Then I would go into assets and look, here it is. I could just drag it out to wherever I want, set my properties, and it'll appear the way that I want it to appear. Oh, it's really nice getting to know the tools. I find it to be a lot of fun. I just thought you'd like to know that. He wants it to look the same as when he created it in ASP Classic. Again, why? I mean, I can understand it. I mean, not understand it. I could be convinced as to why, provided the reason matches my FI. This is a valid reason to want to do that. But if it doesn't match my valid reasons, like I have multiple valid reasons that it could match, and if it doesn't match any combination of those, then it's just wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Okay, anyway, this is how far we got on the list management. I'll be looking for a response if you feel like responding, Marcus. I'm not ignoring, I promise. We're back to the app though. This is how far we got on the, why are these two still showing up the same? On the list management. Categories is correct. No, categories is not correct. I don't remember what we found out was wrong with the categories the last time. What even is the name of this component? Lookup edit. Ah. Categories, lookup item cache, lookup item view model of lookup category of type. Wait. Yeah, I guess to list of this makes sense. Yeah. So Copilot is one that did that. I don't think I've ever done a cast like this. I've always done an of type. But this seems to be a combination of type.toList. So that's pretty cool. And so here's the of type if you wanted to filter a list, which you could also use to cast as long as each of the elements that you want match that thing that you're casting to. But this makes more sense. He doesn't want his users noticing any updates. That is a valid reason. However, I would still strongly encourage him to modernize his app. Them to modernize their app. And Napalm is here. Hello, Napalm. Bring the flame. Or something. Bring the fire. Bring the wrath. Bring. Make it hot. Okay. What? What even is this kid talking about? This switch statement looks fine regarding the actual list that should be loaded when you click on one of these. Definitely the URL is changing to be categories, which should match the lookup list type. Burn it all down. That's what I prefer. One day we're gonna burn it all down. Done. Yeah. Okay. So when it comes in here, we should be getting lookup categories, and our items should be the lookup list state lookup item cache of categories. And what might be happening is that items is empty. I think we have to debug this. First, let's try adding. I see Skynet. Skynet, and therefore Judgment Day is coming, my man. I'm okay with Skynet. And hi, DFlux. Did my response help answer your question at all? I hope it did. That's an interesting way to sort. I responded to both of your messages that you put in Discord. You asked 2 questions in Discord. Yeah, the one from the weekend. So I don't really check my Discord on the weekend. I didn't see that you asked new questions. Ops. No, I apologize. I'm the one that didn't notice you had asked new questions since then. This chord? That chord? Hi, Dukasoft. Oh, 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 oh. I haven't done a thing today because I'm so reliant on Dukasoft. Hmm, hmm, hmm. I did this like 10 minutes ago. You weren't here when I did it. So this is the project that we're working on the stream. And here's Discord. See, I don't rely on Dukasoft for everything. I could still type. So I've asked everyone I know, and it's eluded me for months. No one can explain. I really would love to pay someone to sit with me in this topic. Yeah, I have zero time outside of the stream. So let's look at this right now. Oh no, you are a million okay. You have no need to apologize. Not that question. Okay, so not the link one, this one. Still have a question regarding creating a list or iCollection in a singleton service and how to do it safely without encountering exceptions when multiple methods access the object. I'm aware that doing so can lead to invalid operation exception. However, I would like to understand the solutions involving the use of channels or semaphore slim. Yeah, this, like, the person that you can ask this question is someone that is on my team. He is very, very talented and skilled with using semaphores and dealing with multi threading, accessing the same collection. However, have you considered using concurrent collections? Oh, not, or yeah, yes, yeah, still this question. Um, like, because it's C sharp, I just have the immediate opinion, and this could be completely wrong, that I shouldn't ever have to worry about using semaphores or locks with the code that I do. Okay, so the next bit goes on to say, so I need to finish reading. However, I would like to understand the solutions involving the use of channels or semaphores. I noticed that these solutions are not present in your financial tracker app. The issue I'm experiencing is not something you're currently experiencing, and I want to learn how to resolve it without having to invent workarounds. Yeah. So that's what I do not get. How do you get to that point? I mean, if you have a multi threaded application where there are many things accessing the same um, instance of a variable, the same reference to a variable, especially if it's a collection, then that's how you can get to a point where you run into deadlocks, where you run into race conditions. Um, Most of my stuff is Blazor WebAssembly running on hosted API or having a hosted API backend, but that hosted API backend predominantly uses scoped dependency injections as opposed to singleton. So I don't have to worry about collisions like that. But it sounds like, and I'm going to make this assumption because we have talked, no, I mean scoped. So you have the three types. You have singleton, scoped, and transient. And scope means for a circuit, for a session. And with an API, it's essentially transient. But my assumption is because you have gotten to the point where you are more familiar with the patterns, that you are using the right, I don't know what they're called when it's for dependency injections, but you are using singleton in the correct way. The thing that you are trying to make a singleton should be a singleton, and it shouldn't be scoped or transient. So that's the first assumption I'm going to make and say that's why we'll respond to the whole concurrency issue. So the concurrency thing could happen if I was running this in Blazor server, for example. And that's a bad assumption. Yeah, and that's if you find yourself reasoning that the reason you are doing this thing is because it's how I've always done it, that would be an indication that maybe you should do a little bit more research on, is this the correct way to do it? And so I will cheat myself by saying things like, after having done research, I have found that this is the way that makes the most sense to me to do, according to all of the examples that I've seen. And I'll go on for like hours on why this is the approach that I'm taking. However, there are times that I will still step back and say, is this actually the right way to do this? Is this a good way to do it in general? Because as soon as I start saying, I did the research, I know that this is the way to do it because I looked everywhere and this is what I came up with. As soon as I settle on that, that's when I start just becoming a really bad programmer as opposed to just a bad developer. I do stuff because the lion told me. You talk to lions? I had a friend that talks to ravens that aren't really there. She had a twin sister. And her twin sister, I can't talk about that actually. Um, okay. So I have a collection. If it's scoped, that means there's going to be like 5 instances of the I collection. There's going to be 1 per connected session. So a session could be like if it's in a desktop application, the session would be the lifetime of that application. And in fact, if it's a MAUI application or a WPF or UWP or anything that uses a web view component or control, the web view has its own session. And the XAML and all of the other C# outside of that web view control has its own session as well. So that would be an instance where if you want to share information from XAML using a state class or a service class or whatever, then you would want that to be a singleton because that's the only way to get them both to talk. Or you can provide it to the web view control. It's still weird. So I am doing that in this app. And hello, Thindle. Thindle. Main window. Dude, what are you doing? So I'm passing the services to the web view control, and yet, even though I am adding my UI state to that services collection that I am passing into my Blazor component, the variables, I found that the instance that's being used by the .xaml.cs is different than the instance being used by the Blazor UI. And so that's why I changed it to use singleton. I'm sure this is incorrect. This has to be wrong. I'm passing the reference to the service provider to the Blazor web view, which means that all of the dependencies should come from this service provider, from this dependency injection container, right? And the answer is no, it doesn't seem like it. But I want to figure that out eventually. So right now we're looking at DFlux's thing though. So it's a .NET API with controllers right now, and that's what I have. Okay, so then in the API, the situation that you're trying to avoid is you have a collection of stuff that doesn't change, or that everyone should reference. And the way that you're accessing that in the API is via a singleton dependency injection. The other thing to be considerate of with your singletons, by the way, on APIs or anything deployed to a host, is that each instance of that host gets its own singleton version of the thing. So if you have a distributed system, if you have a cluster, if you have what are other words that I could use, that if you have a load balancer with multiple servers and you have different servers serving the same app, each of those will get their own singleton for all of the connected sessions. And so those will not be synchronized across all of them. And that's why a general pattern is to use something like scoped. And then it goes out and fetches every time that it needs to create the new instance. And then anytime an update happens to it, then either everyone is notified through SignalR, gRPC, some kind of messaging service to update their list, or every single time they need to access the list, they fetch it. So anyway, to get to what I think you're trying to do, actually, let me read what you wrote first. What I'm doing there is something that ChatGPT would recommended, which is maybe I should be using interfaces and I should inject my interface, not injecting the concrete implementation, regardless of which you do. So like here, I'm just saying, if I ask for client services, if I ask for an I account service because this thing is running on the client, I want it to give it the client implementation of that interface. Regardless, though, if I did this as singleton, then I would still run into the same issue. So it doesn't matter whether I'm uh, registering an interface, a concrete class for an interface, or an abstract class. The thing that matters is whether I am doing it as transient scoped or singleton. Because whatever is in the concrete class implementation is the thing that you're going to be treating as needing to be thread managed. Okay, so here's the thing that you're trying to do then. You have some collection in one of your services. I don't know if it's read only. Some collection. Maybe it's public, maybe it's private. Who knows? I'm just going to do of object because I don't feel like creating anything. And so you want everything to use this same collection because this collection gets populated once whenever it gets populated, and then it gets added to, removed, or whatever. And you don't want to requery that same collection for every request that goes to it or for every different connected session, because this thing will get repopulated every time, use more memory, it'll take time to actually query for the stuff. It takes about 3 minutes to populate, and that happens right at the start of the app. Okay, so this sounds like it's on the client side though, right? Not on the server side? Or is it in the API? Okay, server side. And is there a reason that you are getting the full list? Cool. Client side is 100% separate. It's Angular. Totally okay. Before you answer that question, sorry, I still want to address the question that you're asking, which is how do you manage, if this was a singleton, how do you manage multiple processes trying to access it at the same time? Because you are sometimes getting invalid operation exceptions. If you have like 25 different databases, imagine that you have 25 different databases, and what we're storing is scheduling information between those different databases. Databases. Oh, that was it. Just, yeah. It takes a while to query all of them. Yes, that makes sense. Like, the way that I would want to approach that would be, if it's possible, I definitely don't want to throw you off the trail of what you're doing, because I know that that is the most frustrating things when you get advice from other people. You're asking for this specific thing and they're like, well, you should just restructure your entire app. Is there a way to create a view in one of the databases, in whichever one is your primary database, that gives you that data? Because right now what I'm guessing is the whole entire process for populating this list is go to this database, query information from it, go to this database, query information from it, go to this database, query information from it, squish those things together for every single item in that list, then find those items in this other database, add their information to this original list, versus some kind of view that you can query in a central database that does all of that together. It's connected to all of the databases. pulls in the data. I guess the hard part would be if you're adding items, how exactly are you distributing the information to the other databases to add them to the correct database, to the correct tables, etc. But that isn't storing duplicate data. That a view is a query. It is not creating more data in a database. It's like if you were going to get a reference to this object. Okay, so you can't edit in DB anyway. So a read-only view, a query-only view, would make the most sense in this situation. Oh, we can't add stored procedures or views. Okay, totally okay then. It's still a recommendation. Maybe bring it up. So trying to get onto the actual question, how to access this one collection after it gets populated once from multiple processes, multiple threads, and it's there has to be a concurrent collection of some sort. And I think we talked about the concurrent collections before. But essentially what a concurrent collection will do is it will, if that object reference, if the object at this thing's location is in use, I think, I don't know what it's called though, then anything else will stop and wait for it to be freed. And then it'll release the key, the lock, the whatever. And then the next thing will pick it up. Aaron is saying if you're just reading it though, you don't need concurrency. Concurrency bag. Big. You could use iLazy for a concurrent load on demand. Yeah, because it sounds like this list is definitely not getting written to, except for that first load. And then from that point on, this thing is. It is, so. All right, I want to understand how to do this responsibly without these massive workarounds. Yeah, and again, concurrent blah is not a workaround. That is a language feature that is intended for things like this, for accessing a collection from multiple threads. The workaround currently, in my opinion, would be using a lock or a semaphore. Sounds like a cache is needed instead. In-memory cache, for example. Yeah, so that's what sounds like a workaround to me, just because C# does all of the thread management for you. Typically. I mean, you can definitely do it yourself. Pulumi has a chat GPT trained. Who is Pulumi? Um, on their docs already. I only use semaphores now since I do only client-side programming and lock mechanism blocks the UI thread. I can wait asynchronously on a semaphore. True. Yeah, and so again, President Not Sure, if you do have information on how to accomplish this, DFlux's primary question is he has a singleton on an API or in an API. Yeah, I know we've talked about this before. But he has a singleton that is shared across that is on in his API, that is on his server, one server, so you don't have to worry about it being across multiple servers, and a collection in that will get modified somewhere else, but it will be read from other sources, from other processes and threads. And so he's wanting to figure out, or he has an I, yeah, did I say it's an I collection? He has a service with an I collection in it. And so he wants to figure out how he can safely access the collection from those other threads, other processes concurrently. And so Napalm is saying, we talked about this last stream. I don't think it was last stream, but I'm sure we talked about it before. It's IAC using real programming language. It is IAC, which stands for Infrastructure as Code. Yeah, the singleton won't be thread safe unless you write things carefully. Yeah, I am. Oh, I absolutely am. So DFlux is asking, in short, your financial app nowhere, are you storing a list or I collection in a singleton? Wait, in a singleton, correct. My lookup list state is the thing that stores my lookup item cache. Shared client? No. Blazor UI. Blazor UI. State. Lookup list state. Okay. So here the words. This is where I load all of my lookup items on application start. Let's see if we can see that happen. If I F12, go to network, refresh. Okay, so accounts, summaries, account types, categories, deposit reasons, actually not summaries, but account types, categories, deposit reasons, line item types, payees, recurrence types. That happens on app load. That gets stored in, and again, this is client side, but imagine me doing this on the server. That is stored in this lookup item cache collection in that state. And that state is dependency injected using scoped. So for this running session in this browser on this tab, I have a copy of that lookup item cache. If I open another tab and I load the app, that gets its own copy of the same list, and it gets populated the same way. In your case, you have a list that takes 3 minutes to get populated, and it would happen in an API. It would happen every single time a new request is made to an endpoint, to that service, or that uses that service. If you had it anything less than singleton. With that in mind, I would say a singleton would make the most sense for preventing the need to rehydrate this list every single time. However, I think that the underlying issue is more that the process for getting that list hydrated takes that long. Do you really need that entire list in memory? Or do you only need chunks of it that would take a fraction of that time for specific requests? All right, I'm gonna catch up on some of this chat. Some of the chat. But yeah, like I said, my coworker is very well versed in this and knows when to use semaphores because, again, we have a desktop application that accesses hardware and does a lot of UI updates based off of progress sent from the Windows API. which is not all controlled from C#. So we need to do stuff like create locks before we can access a specific test. President Nasher says, my rule of thumb is only use a singleton when necessary. Don't use it by default, and don't use it if you can avoid it. I like that. I mean, use it when it makes sense to. Like, don't use any of them. Don't use transient, don't use scope, don't use singleton by default. Consider what is the appropriate one to do for each case. For REST APIs, I try to use only scoped, which I believe is what HTTP requests are scoped to. They are. Unfortunately, for REST APIs, there is no concept of session unless you do some magic to hook it up yourself. So every call to a controller endpoint will give you a new instance of an object that is scoped. For a .NET hosted API, that is. But it's been a while since I used Microsoft Dependency Injection on server-side APIs. I also try to avoid using statics in my scoped services because that brings me right back to contention problems. If I have to use a static in a service, I am very careful to deal with concurrency. Yeah, use it when it makes sense. And I know you meant that. It's just, I wanted to make it clear that you should probably be mindful of the patterns that you're choosing to follow. Says the person that has no idea what to call the patterns that I follow. They're just the things that I use. But just being more mindful of when to use the thing. So in short, DFlux, the use case for singleton in your situation seems appropriate. Use case? The use of singleton in your situation seems appropriate. But I would recommend finding the root issue of why that list takes so long to populate. If you can find an easier way to populate it when it's needed, use it only when it's needed. But it sounds like Semaphore Slim would be either concurrent bag or some kind of concurrent list would be the approach to use if you're trying to populate it from one place, access it from other threads and other processes. So maybe look into concurrent bag. I don't know enough about it to fully recommend it. Sharp. Because that in my opinion, based off of what I know, would be the C# centric way of creating a list that is accessed from multiple places, populated in other places, potentially on different threads, potentially at the same time. But you can use link on this though, can't you? So even though you can't order concurrent bag, you could still order order by in wherever you're trying to use it. So does the order by operation take a long time too? Oh, it doesn't do things in order. Okay. Okay. So what you're saying is you throw something inside of the bag and what's inside of the bag are things that you must do on the server. And because it's throwing it in the bag in an unordered way, you can grab something from the bag and it's going to be whatever happens to be the first thing in the bag, or last, depending on how you grab the thing from the bag. Hello, Vardahoff. I am 13-year-old dev trying to get more involved with .NET Core. Awesome. I've taken a course and watched videos, and everything seems to be done differently. It is. Hopefully, you'll find a lot of patterns that you can maybe solidify for yourself and what works. But a lot of times it's up to developer preference. If you solve my problem, you're a senior. I've done MVC and core also for a job at 13 years old. But again, every project I ran into has. Oh, wait. You've been doing the dev for 13 years. You aren't 13 years old. Or are you 13 years old? I'm confused. Just wondering if there's the best way to learn about it to be senior level. Notice a huge change from .NET 5 to .NET 6. So we have a response that is Pluralsight from LemonEB. LemonEB, that's fun to say. I'm an adult. I've been developing for 13 years. Okay. I was like, you've already done a job at 13 years old? You've done MVC? Okay. So the request for information is, are there good resources for skilling up? I'm not a big fan of doing, gosh, I don't want to word this in a bad way, because the people that create courses and take the time to do it deserve to get paid for it. But there are so many resources available for you to be able to skill up without needing to pay. The thing that I've done in order to get better at software dev, and I'm sure I could improve even more if I did find paid courses or instructor-led courses especially, is I find the topic that I am trying to learn more about. In your case, it would probably be Blazor, because everything needs Blazor. You've already done MVC. So I'm assuming that is .NET MVC using .NET Core. So Blazor would be logical. ASP.NET Pages would be logical. If you're planning on staying in ASP.NET in the web world, those would be good things to continue learning from. So there are plenty of people on the YouTubes. There is Microsoft Learn for those skills as well, which is pretty much just a sales ground for Azure services. But you still do learn a lot of patterns and techniques that are best practices, industry standards. Dukesoft says, I've done a few paid courses. All I use now is YouTube and Twitch. I missed some statements from up here. So I want to avoid these workarounds. If you have no need for this, I should be able to structure my app in the same way and just never have this issue. Yeah, I mean, it's because of how long it takes the list to populate that it doesn't make sense to do it on every request. And so you need some way to share the information. You could have two different lists. I don't like that either. Just kidding. I'll come back to that. Marcus says, it kind of depends on how you learn. Some people like watching videos, some people like reading articles, some people like actual courses, right? Definitely great answer. Always great answers. I think if I had Redis cache, I could make everything scoped. Yeah, like on the server, Man, it just makes sense to have like a database. Just one extra table in a database, but a view would probably be best. A view. And without knowing how you're accessing the data and how much of the data you're accessing per request and how often, it's hard to also say to do it a different way, to do it with just queries. So, like when you're trying to add something to this bag, to this thing that says first in, first out, whatever I put in first, you need to do that in that order because that sounds like a queue to me. Um, if it's populated, if that if that gets added to your list by adding it to a database table, because it sounds like you're populating this list from multiple databases, which means that when you're adding a new record to it, you would be updating a database table or adding to a database table or some set of database tables. So when you're trying to get stuff from it, you're only getting one thing that is the combination of all of those things. So the first in would be the thing with the earliest timestamp of some sort. And so every time you're going to go to the database to say, give me the earliest timestamp thing, and then hydrate all of the extra information from the other databases, that might be fast enough that you don't need to keep the entire set of stuff in memory. Okay, so back to Marcus's comment on your learning style. Whoa there, little mobile studio. That's a massive thing to consider, obviously. My learning style is watch someone do it or read a tutorial and then try the tutorial going word verbatim, watching the person do it while I do it myself, reading it while I do it myself, doing it myself without needing to reference the tutorial as much as I can. So I'll still go back to the tutorial and be like, how did that work? And then I'll do it again and not reference the tutorial again until I can do it without even looking at the tutorial, and then I'll try to change things about it. So if this is something telling me how to use Entity Framework, how to set it up to query a database in some kind of app, then I'll follow the tutorial, set up the Contoso, whatever it tells me to do, and then I'll try it again on my own, and then I will create my own database structure and database context and use that in an app. So, uh, Vardahoff says, I'm trying to stay more in .NET Core. Isn't Blazor handling views? Okay, so .NET Core is a target framework. It is the underlying language and interpreter, and it's the code. It's the thing that drives everything. Blazor is a way of creating UI, yes. I used Razor with MVC. So if you've used Razor, you can most likely do Blazor. Just think of Blazor as Razor interactable without needing to use JavaScript. I'm doing more. I've more been doing React for 5 years, and I'm trying to make the switch from front end to back end in my career. Okay, and that's totally okay. If you've done React, you'd probably be comfortable doing Blazor as well because it's component based. And but if you're trying to focus on back end, then that's when you would start needing to, or I would recommend focusing on technologies like cloud services, hosting, app service, all of the Azure technologies if you're going to stick with .NET. So all of the Azure cloud services. be honest, I learn best through projects. Awesome. To take a step back, this could help point you in a good direction, which is Microsoft Learn, and that's definitely where I was heading to next. Currently, Vardahoth. Something that might help you is the Cloud Skills Challenge for this year. There isn't much time left in it. Can you tell us how much time there is left in it? There used to be a timer countdown. Anyway, June 20th is when it ends. So essentially, you go to this thingy, you choose a path, and for you, it would be the cloud. Actually, is the cloud one even? Yeah, okay. Cloud Development Challenge would be the one I recommend for you specifically. Do all of the modules in it. And if you complete all of the modules, all 36 modules for this one specifically, you will be given a free certification exam voucher. And you can use that exam voucher for any of the cloud or any of the exams that are listed here, in which I would recommend either AZ-104 or AZ-204 for you. This will give you a certification that could help make you a senior developer. I mean, nothing really works as good as the experience and time, but people will view you more as a senior developer if you have certifications and credentials. So here's a way to get a free certification exam, not the certification itself. You're still going to have to take the test, schedule and take the test after doing some more studying, and pass the test, which it's not an easy test, but you can do it. I know you can. But not only that, as you're doing the studying, you will develop those skills because now you have a reason to study. You have a goal. I don't, again, if it works for you, it definitely works for me. You have a goal on why you're learning this thing, and it is to get a certification in that field. I learn best by doing projects. So one project I like for learning new tech stacks is the To-Do app. Absolutely, because it covers all of the crud. Absolutely. So you think DevOps is pretty much glued with backend? Not necessarily, no. So what I mean by learning Azure services is the places where you deploy your code, you need to program a specific way for it. How you access Azure Key Vault, how you access other Azure services from your backend code. It's just that right now, the predominant way that companies are establishing their applications, their backend applications, is by hosting it in the cloud, which requires the person doing the software development to know a little bit about the cloud service that their app is being deployed to, that their backend code is being deployed to. Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily the configuration of it yourself. It would help, but in code, how do you use the Azure API SDK? Like Azure AI SDK or some other SDK for Azure. How do you do the auth flow? Definitely having the knowledge and skills on GitHub and just source control in general, pipelines, sure. But again, like you said, that's all DevOps stuff. Good to know, not necessarily needed for the entire backend focus, but that could give you some more experience in being a more senior developer, being able to resolve issues in code, especially. So when I think of a senior developer, I think of someone that you give them a new code base, someone else's code base, and they're like, can you help me figure out why this thing is not working? And that person says, all right, let's review this. Here's some information on what could be causing this, and here are some possible solutions. Try them out. They're also the person that, if they're given a product, they look at it and they can start integrating new things into it or fixing existing issues without needing very much direction. So if that's what you mean by senior developer, especially backend wise, then that comes with being exposed to a variety of issues and needing to resolve them. So that's more along the lines of problem solving skills, if you consider those. DFlux said, well, Redis cache is the exact same thing. I would just use that as my database. Yeah. Yeah. You just need somewhere. And again, your singleton in a way that it's thread safe would be the second. I don't know. It's still a viable option, DFlux. So again, still look at concurrent bag. Because you want to do FIFO, wouldn't you just have some kind of date stamp for the object that you're putting into the bag so that you can sort by that and then pull out the first one that is the most recent date timestamp or earliest date timestamp? But yeah, Varderhoff is saying, I've been a senior for 2 years now, professionally. Awesome. My DB experience is in Microsoft SQL, Postgres, and SQLite. I've heard good things about Redis, though. I haven't used Redis. I am vaguely familiar with it, but I don't use it. I don't know too much about it. DFlux says, no, I'm not sure how or why everything is calling everything else, and no one can explain it to me. So investigate what fields do you have, what properties are available in the objects that you get from this collection. Is one of them a date timestamp of some sort that says when it was added to the collection? If so, sort ascending on that, dot first, and then that'll give you the most recent item that you can pop out of the bag. It's not a matter of the collection itself, it's the order of which the methods are called. Then that's a completely different question than how do I access a collection from multiple threads. In that case, it really is thread management in the sense of you can call all of these methods in whatever order you want, but they must execute in this specific order. And just off the top of my head, the way that I might approach something like that, and I'm sure that there are better ways to do it, is to have some sort of process ID or just some ID that carries forth for the entire. I'm calling all of these methods with this ID, meaning that they all belong together. Wait until you have them in. Yeah. As a method gets called, the first thing that it does is it queues itself, which doesn't require any locking in this case. It queues itself and then give me all of the for this run ID. Let's call it a run. For this run ID, order the methods in the right order, execute each one in that order. So queue method, queue method, queue method, queue method, queue method, sort that or order that in the right order, execute, queue. And you're welcome, Vardahoth. On Fridays, we have Community Day. where if you feel like it, you can use your voice to ask questions. We spend a lot more time focusing on topics that the community wants to discuss. But you can also just use chat, and you can also just lurk. So I really, really, really appreciate the lurk. Thank you so much for asking your question, and feel free to ask any other questions you want. We also have a Discord where you can ask those questions, and we have some great people that love to help out and answer questions, hopefully in better ways than me. So everyone wants to use a channel or a messaging service to queue the requests, which is fine. I mean, I don't find messages to be a convoluted way to handle that. Oh, and since you're still listening, you don't have to type anymore. I just want to let everyone that is here know that, or remind anyone who is here that already knows, next week, Monday through Friday, I will not be streaming because I will be away. But then I will pick it back up on the following Moon Day, provided I have energy. I plan to pick it back up on the following Monday, but this week, streaming is normal. Oh man, thank you so much for the follow. That's really nice of you. Okay. And yes, keep the conversation going, DFlux. I hope to be able to provide more information about that. Messaging services to me are pretty, like, maybe the setup of it took a little bit of effort. I was using RabbitMQ, or am using RabbitMQ, which I find the usage of it to be easy. The setup was a little finicky, but once it got set up, it was working fine. And again, as soon as you have all of these things belong together, pop that one entire run from the queue, and then execute the tasks in order that it's supposed to happen. It's that no one can explain to me why we need it and why we cannot control what is calling what. Yeah, that would need to be a code review to find out. You could have it all done by the app by a singleton service and have a second concurrent collection be a run is a set of things that need to happen in a specific order, but they're just thrown together. You order them yourselves and you run it in the right order. Grab it from the bag, order the things that need to happen from that thing, and then run them each. And so every time that you call a method, again, you call the API method, and what that does is it queues up, finds the run, queues up a method for the run. And again, I'm using the word queue, but what I mean is it just adds a reference to the task for that. Probably task, probably just the callback for it, whatever. The actual method delegate. And then for every run, then you know that a run will have method A before method B, before method C, before method D. So if it has method A, run it first. If it has method B, run that next and wait for method A to finish. I asked this before and you said no, but what if I only allowed access to the object via calling an awaited task, like having a task at object X and then another awaited task of setting the object? And Bardaki rated. Oh my gosh. I'll answer you in a couple seconds. Thank you for bringing all of your fantastic friends and watchers and viewers. Bardaki, how are you doing? I hope you had a fantastic stream today. Do not feel obligated to have to stick around if you need to run, if you want to freshen up or whatever. But thank you so much for the raid. 111 elf lion. An elf lion. Oh, that would be cool. I have not been lurking on anyone's stream today. I've been pretty focused on stuff for this week because we have a release that's going to happen while I am out. So I need to finish all the things that I'm trying to do for the work product. You still have to prevent thread contention in each method. Yeah. So even if you do await, the best kind of release. Yes. Even if you, so we're currently talking with DFlux. He has a pretty massive good question regarding using multiple threads, multiple processes, calling methods in whatever order they happen to call it in, and they're all also accessing a collection that is on the server in a singleton. Fun times. Absolutely, the best of times. Um, so anyway, um, so even if you do an await on the client side, it still seems like other clients could be making requests to the server and modifying the collection. So if you do await, then yes, it's going to call it in the right order, but it could be two different things calling the same method in different order, or in at the same time, or um, in different parts. There's a wait. Well, wait. Will await do that for me? Yeah, so if you put in await, if you have an asynchronous method, so okay. Okay, okay. I have all of these responses here. And let's say that these were the order of calls that need to happen. First, I need to call accounts, then I need to call accounts type, then I need to call categories, then I need to call. So this line will finish with this await keyword before it moves to the next line. But this is all client-side calls. So this thing will do a HTTP request to the server. At the same time, someone else has the app open and they're running and they hit this line too at the same time as me. So their event is going, or their HTTP request is going to hit the server at the same time as me, try to access the same list at the same time, try to modify the same list potentially at the same time. So that's where President Not Sure is saying that is not going to prevent the contention with things trying to access the same object at the same time on the server. So you could have, and let's say that this is your server method then. If this was your server method, you get 5 things that hit this endpoint at the same time, and they're all running these because I'm using await in order. Yeah, so it comes into your controller, yes. So let's say that this is your controller method here this time around. And so you get more than one request coming in at the same time. And they're all trying to run these methods that are accessing the same singleton collection, the same singleton service that has a collection in it that they're all trying to modify. And so one of them would be here, another one would be here, another one would be here, that kind of thing. But if you're just wanting to make sure that when a request comes into your API, the methods are being run in the correct order, instead of doing a do, this is what I'm assuming is happening, maybe. Task. Which I could do this, by the way. Await task when all. Oh no. Pasta? Okay, so if I did it this way, then they would all execute concurrently. And if they were all accessing the same collection, then they would do their operation potentially before the previous one would finish. Actually, why am I doing it that way? Why am I not doing it like this? We're going to see if this breaks stuff. So all that I did is, since this thing is an API call, it's just going to try to get all of the lookup list at the same time. And then populate them when they're all done. So yeah, if they're using task when all, then this is going to happen simultaneously. Some will run faster than the others, and some will be at different stages in their accessing the concurrent list. So to fix that, you just await each method call so that it's done in the right order. This is when you don't care what order things complete in. When all or when any, even. Okay, did I break stuff? I like breaking stuff. Okay. If we refresh, and if you're fast enough, you will see all of these calls here happen simultaneously and end at different times. So this waterfall should look like they, well, I mean, it currently looks like they all run at the same time. So technically, all of these happen at the same time, except for summaries. And they all finished at different times. Although it looks like they all finished pretty close to the same time. What's happening is I do not know enough about the problem I'm facing to speak exactly precisely the issue, and I do not know enough of the solution to talk about it with my colleagues in a way that inspires confidence. Yeah. So just try to trace from whatever initiates the call to your controller. Try to trace what the code does without running it. No breakpoints, just do it by stepping through the code with your mouse and keyboard, and see if that'll help you understand the code a little bit better and how it runs. Is that's one of the first things that I do when I'm given a project that I'm unfamiliar with. It's, what does the app do? Let me run the app, try it out, observe what the app does, then look at the code, and then be like, okay, this button launches this thing here. When it does that, it goes here, 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 here. And then I'm usually like, why did they write it like this? And then after a year of working there, I look back at my code and I'm like, why did I write it like this? Okay, anyway, enough making fun of myself. So this goes away. So we did it. We got exactly -2 things. We're going by transdate, please. Ascending. Okay, what we're looking at here is the list management page, where when you change between list types, you get the list items over here. That's exactly what we want. We're not too worried about the styling at the moment, obviously. You are quite welcome, DFlux. If I if I notice that you update your question, I will do my best to respond to it. Ooh, live coding. Responded to you. And he says that he'd love to talk it through with you on a Friday stream. I'm sure that he would recommend using message queue. Is the cool thing about message queues is that things just listen to it. And you'll send something to the message queue and then it'll broadcast a message to every listener or all of the right listeners, and then they will act accordingly. And so that's why it's nice to have some place that you can just send a go do this thing to, and then have the things act on it that are supposed to. And the cool thing is that there are mechanisms for my hand is on this thing, I'm going to try to do it. So nobody else touch this thing. And then when that thing is done, then it's like, okay, I successfully did it. I'll remove it from the queue. Or this process gets locked up and then the hand never gets removed. And so it's like it got chopped off at the hand and there's still a hand on there and everything is like, is he still doing stuff with it? And then it goes into the dead letter queue. And anyway, that's a terrible analogy, terrible visual. Okay, we're trying to figure out. I'm still thinking about it. We're trying to figure out why categories is still giving me the list of account types. And my guess is that the categories is empty. There are no categories. I didn't actually save that change. Um, we're going to SQL Server Object Explorer. Oh man, I think I need to have Twitch open now so that I can have someone to raid when we are down, getting close to the end. I will lurk on you for now. But I will not, I kind of don't want to raid today because I really don't want to stick around anywhere. I just want to get right back to work. And I feel as if it would be rude if I just said, I'm here, right, raid, drop off, bye. And I know people do that, but I don't want to do that. I would feel rude. But I also want to give people the opportunity to do that if they need to go. I don't want to make them feel like they're obligated to stay. This kid, he's such a weird kid. I don't get him. Whatever. Yeah, so look, um, when it refreshed the page, it says no items to display. So my guess is when we receive a response, wait, no, we are still getting the account types list when we go to categories. So that's very confusing. I refresh the page on categories, no items to display. Does that happen when I refresh on any of them? No items to display. Yes. Okay. So I don't know what the deal is. We are here. And I said we were going to debug this. And we're going to do it by using console write lines because I don't feel like stopping and restarting it in debug mode. What a loading edit list for. Ooh. Count of items found. Consult. I know how to type N%. Oh man. Uh, underscore items count. Nan. Line to string. So you can both be strings. Selection is null or something? Possibly. Possibly. It could be that it is null. Underscore items is null. Or, I see what you're saying. I don't think that the selection, that the list type could be null because it's pulled from a route parameter and then deserialized, or not deserialized, parsed to the enum type here. And so it will always at least be one of these enum types. The only time that it displays the no items message is if items count as 0. Okay. So if we refresh and look at the console, it doesn't even hit set parameters. Set parameters for lookup list edit. Oh. Oh, it did hit it. Huh? But then you're saying that there is no... Console right line. I didn't find a lookup list type param value. Semicolon expected. Refresh. Yeah. So when I load this list management page directly, it's so needy. It doesn't set the parameter on this page for here. Which would get set here. It probably is, it's just not refreshing the component. But that's not the case that we're debugging right now. The case that we're debugging is, why is categories giving us account types? You were supposed to be the enum to string, not the number. Dang it. Oh wait, that says count of items. Whoops. Loading edit list for categories, count of items found 4. So it's definitely saying that my lookup item view model of lookup category is giving me 4 items that are the same 4 items that we get from lookup account type. That's telling me it's an issue in my server-side logic for getting the lookup list. What is my get? My get is here. For, oh my gosh, how do you do this? Get queryable lookup list, accounts, account types, categories. And categories is going to the categories table. Account types is going to the account types table. The other thing that it could be is in my controller. In my controller for the lookup types, When I am telling it categories, it is doing lookup account type. Oh my goodness. Copy pasta. Copy pasta. There we go. Okay, so now to fix the, actually, small commit, small commits. Oh my goodness, this is not a small commit. We created the created the UI for components for lookup list management. It is. Oh my gosh. Um, I don't think either of you matter. What are you, cleanup? Probably cleanup. So I'll go ahead and include these. These are for styling the component. Look up list state. Do you have any changes? No. Okay, so this was the one that I just did. I like the change, so I'm keeping it, but I'm not checking it in with this set. So these two files here are being generated by the Sass files. And what I would do is I would exclude these. I'm not going to do them now for reasons, but I would tell these to I would use git ignore to ignore these CSS files that get compiled from the Sass. And in my pipeline, during my build, since I'm using the MS build, am I using it? I would add the web compiler package reference so that on build, it will regenerate the CSS files. And that way I'm not checking in changes to CSS files when really the only changes to the Sass file. And then that would also prompt people who want to clone the repo to use their own Sass compiler to generate the CSS files, instead of trying to go in and modify the CSS files directly. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that in a future episode. But for now, since I'm putting in global styles in root, we may as well stage those. Data entry, this one has to do with adding the list management to it. So we want to keep those as part of the create components for list management. Index was the sample component. So I'm going to leave that one off for now. We got some new CSS files, Sass files. I really don't know if there were other changes. I only looked at the one for calling the API synchronously. Or concurrently. You know, words. How does one word in this world? Not those, not those. Those were all sample stuff. Look up list type for your localization files. Look up list type for being able to select a page based off of it, which probably means that I need to keep the csproj file. Wasn't there a csproj file that I needed for right here? And then maybe some localizations for shared. And the lookups controller. Oh no, not undo. Scary, scary. Stage. This was cool to find out, the endpoint explorer. Endpoints explorer. That's a cool thing. If you're interested in that and you weren't here for that talk, I would be happy to talk about it again. Because it was so cool. Yeah, at least it asked before undoing. Are arrays inherently more problematic than first or default, than say first or default? So are you asking about dereferencing or indexing by using the square brackets? So I have private list object because I can't think of anything else to do. Tacos with an E. And in some method, public void some method using underscore tacos with square bracket indexer versus tacos dot first or default. And the answer is yes. And the reason why is because you aren't doing any kind of index check to see if the thing that you're putting in here is within the bounds. So if tacos is an empty list or an empty array or an empty collection, this will give you an exception because 0 is greater than the number of elements in the array or collection. Here, if there are no items in the collection, then you will get back whatever the default value is for an item in the collection. Which, if it's a user class, it's often null. So in Discord, we're in Discord. There's a lot of things in Discord. Share link. Yeah, so like, okay, so this is a different case. You are using a string indexer in this case. So whatever YMOs is, it has a method that uses a string indexer. Yeah, there are some things in this that, yeah. It could use some refactoring, like nested loops for one. Yeah. Anyway. there's some weirdness to it. Oh, wait, get properties was always there. Anyway, yeah. This could use some refactoring. Definitely. Nested ifs. Where you have an if else, where this could just be this and this else this. I guess. I mean, this thing needs to hide the else branch. So maybe. Yeah, magic strings. But yes. Yeah. There's a lot of weird. You're right. Fixed an issue. Refactored the lookup list getter to be concurrent. Not really concurrent, simultaneous lookup calls. Sure, I like using that word. And then we modified the entry types. Oh crap, that should have went with the other one. Or lookup lists. And updated the updated the lookup. Wait, we already fixed that one in the previous. Oh my gosh, I lost track of it all. Just commit. We're fine. Good enough. You can read the code if you need to know what happened on the commits. Am I right? Ours, John. Late to the Dacky raid. That's okay. You are absolutely welcome here. Good to see you. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. My nerves are getting the better of me. Holy cow. Wait a minute. Now that you say late to it, I just now looked at the time. I heard my alarm going off, but I was so involved in trying to help out DFlux where I could that I didn't even realize that's the end of the stream. Ah, I got nothing done. I got everything done. But I helped. Or I hope I helped. I at least gave you information that you could do stuff with and hopefully make decisions on. But yes, there is a shout out for Irish John Games. If you do not know him, he is the author, the developer of Rise of Piracy, among other things. Bang, yar. Check out Rise of Piracy on Steam. Wishlist it. Check it out. It is an amazing, fun game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. Strategy, going out and terrorizing other people if you feel like it, or just doing normal trade type stuff. You could be a good citizen and actually open good trade routes, and it's going to be so much fun. So looking forward to seeing your stream today, or whenever you're going to stream. Sorry, no pressure. Your sub ran out. No. Here are some pirate boats. Yarg. True. Back. And the non-bear bear. Yes. Irish sub games. I will go ahead and set up a raid. What we will do on Wednesday is hopefully finish out the functionality of this edit page that currently looks like this. And hopefully we'll be able to do that because that is the last bit of functionality that we need in order for this app to be full featured, full functionality. And then we can work on redesigning it, styling it, and adding value to it. Looking good. What are you looking at? Are you even looking at your screen? How far away are you sitting right now, Senor John? I especially like the corn buns. They're pencils. They are pencils. Look, look. Oh my gosh, I can't even. Oh, duh. That's fixed. Look, look. They are pencils. Pencils. Actually, they look like yellow crayons. You can either corn or delete this row. Oh, so true. Anyway, I need to get back to work. Oh no, I don't have that. I can't see that. Are you sure you typed that correctly? I want to see the emoji. Um, feels left out, man. I need to go. I need to get my stuff done so that I can oh no. So that I can have all of my work done so that we can release during the week that I'm gone. Reminder, I will not be streaming next week. Whoops, that's not a command. Slash raid is a command. 7.43 corns. Yeah. Oh, you know what? This is in-game currency. That's all it is. Those are the currency icons for these numbers. Duh. Thanks, Irish John. I never would have known. Anyway, we're going to raid out to Sedalix. He has the intended for mature audiences turned on. He is a game developer. If you don't feel like watching game dev, that's on you. You don't have to stick around for the raid, but I do recommend that you do. He's a pretty cool guy. Although sometimes his streams can get very, very active and they might just give you seizures. But still good time no matter what. I will be back on Wednesday. This video will be posted to the YouTubes no sooner than 24 hours after I end the stream. He has a bot that is actually powered by AI, which is fun, good times. Yeah, what else is there? Feel free to join our Discord and ask questions there if you want. Hang out, talk. And again, I'll be back on Wednesday for another fantastic stream. Hopefully we'll get this edit form done finally, and we'll be done with the core functionality of the project. Ciao for now. Juice. Here's some music.